The following video is one in a series on spiritual resilience training, a non-religious view of personal values and their dynamics with others. The contents reflect a variety of principles and practices of systems theory and relational counseling for team building and family resilience. Although the series is intended to support Army Corps values, each video also encourages the viewer to reflect on their current prominent values in specific situations and to consider what values may be more appropriate to means and results that are honorable and helpful with others. Chaplain Dillard initiates creating and posting these videos. Their contents and YouTube's linked videos do not necessarily reflect specific beliefs, practices, requirements, or endorsements of the Department of Defense, its subordinate organizations, or other groups with which Chaplain Dillard is affiliated.
Welcome back. The next several videos are built on the foundation of a couple of previous videos on emotional intelligence and spiritual resilience, specifically as they relate to what I'm describing as our treasure chest, values that we treasure in our chest, things that we love, things that motivate us, that drive us, that inspire us, that cause us to feel bad, mad, sad, and glad, and how we respond to that. The goal is to be more self-aware of what we value so we can choose what's most helpful and honorable, to be self-managing in our relationships in the moment and for the future. So please refer to those previous videos. You can look on YouTube for those key phrases, treasure chest, emotional intelligence, spiritual resilience, and you'll see a couple of videos. It's a two-part introduction. Before we go any further, you might be asking yourself, well, what is the significance or what's the big deal about inner conflict? Can't you just reason your way through it? Or maybe that's somebody else's problem, or why should I even address it at all? Well, let's look at some very practical specifics. First, with inner conflict, our ability to prioritize properly is limited, distorted, or distracted. All of us have to make decisions, and we have to prioritize what is most important. What should we do first? How should we spend most of our time, money, or energy? And if we are really drawn here or there and pushed and pulled and we're procrastinating and we feel urges to push us forward in compulsive type ways, we're not in control. We're not really making choices. We're reacting. And inner conflict can make prioritizing very difficult. Second, the physical and emotional stress results in hypertension and fatigue. Some folks who have been diagnosed or diagnosed themselves as bipolar, or as it used to be called manic depressive, they're very up and they're very down. It's just expressions of hypertension, not physical hypertension, the medical term, but being hypervigilant, very, very up and hyped and concerned about things, which then wears us out and we're physically down. And the inner conflict of values can have that physical and emotional effect on us. Thirdly, our key relationships are strained by extremes of proximity. We either become more distant from people or we become too close to people because we are driven, pushed and pulled by our emotions, our felt experience of those values that are battling inside of us instead of choosing what is most honorable and helpful in those moments. We get tunnel visioned on positives, which mean we often miss or choose to ignore significant challenges. If we are very, very optimistic because we don't want to see the negative will soon become overwhelming because we're not dealing with it. In a similar way, if we are tunnel visioned on the negatives, we often miss or intentionally ignore significant opportunities. We can't just be looking for problems. There are good things out there. Good things are happening right now. And if we are always that hammer in search of the negative nail, we'll miss a lot of the good things around us. So tunnel vision either way is not helpful to good decision making and good relationships. We can fall into cycles of reaction for ourselves as opposed to responding for others on our team. If we are always unaware, oblivious to that inner conflict, not really looking at what is happening in the moment, what are we valuing, how is this impacting our emotions and our behavior and our decisions, we'll get into a cycle of constant reacting just to protect ourselves or to soothe ourselves or to promote ourselves, and other relationships will really begin to suffer. Lastly, as I've already implied many times, teamwork will suffer from all of the above. All of us live in relationships. We're part of families, we're part of work teams, we're part of neighborhoods, we're part of social networks, and when we have inner conflict, even though it's within us, the effects of it trickle into our relationships. So we just have to know how to deal with it. And I want to guide you through something I believe will be helpful in how to do that. As human beings, we are born with certain hungers or values. For example, physical safety, intimacy, emotional security, meaning, and roles. Now, all of those are just general categories. They're not necessarily personal core values. Those things are going to be shaped and honed by some other relationships and events that happen in our life. Consider the following. Our family of origin, namely our parents and our siblings and whoever else grew up with us for the 18 or 16 or 20 years that we were at home. Our culture, other relationships in our neighborhood, and whether we grew up in the deep south or in a foreign country or the military or whatever, and significant events specify and strengthen some values as benefits to us. For example, we may find that interdependence is a blessing to us in particular relationships. Candor may really work for us because that's how people treated us and things went well. Freedom, control, acceptance, integrity. But we also experience some values as losses, threats, or injustices under those same influences. For example, a loss of mercy, a violation of independence, a threat to a sense of care, a threat to a sense of justice, a loss of contentment, violation of progress, a loss of structure. Over time, our levels of expectation, frequency, and duration form our personal core values. Now let me clarify a little what I mean by that. Not all relationships have equal power and validity for an impact on us. It depends on the expectation, the frequency, and the duration. For example, if a stranger cuts me off in traffic, that might upset me for a little bit, but if it's my dad, and I have an expectation that my dad is going to treat me with care and respect and safety, and he cuts me off in traffic, then that has a deep impact on me. I might get very angry because I have an expectation of care. I might get very hurt because I think he doesn't care for my safety. I might be very shocked and scared because I think this man that I thought he was my caregiver, now he's being very reckless and playful with something that is dangerous. So expectation of caregiving really impacts how much something sticks with us for a perception of a value. Also the frequency. Did it happen one time or did it happen 3 times a day for 20 years? That, and it should go without saying, but I'll say it anyway, that impacts how much something becomes a personal core value. And the duration of it. Did it happen for what's sometimes called microaggressions, a split second? Or did it last for hours at a time, that we were lectured for hours at a time, or we were left at home alone for hours at a time, or that we were given unusually great responsibilities that we could not succeed at for weeks at a time? Now those are some negative things, but positive things as well. Did we have an unusually safe and intimate and productive relationship with a friend for several years, and we learned trust, and we learned give and take, and we learned honesty, and we experienced those things. Those have lasting impacts on us too. So expectation and frequency and duration in the family of origin and culture and other events, these over time shape our personal core values. They even overshadow the original purpose and context of those values. They become so large in our life, that's all we see, not so much what they're supposed to be tied to or what they were tied to. and they become larger than life. They're the elephant in the room, or more specifically, the elephant in our spirit. One of the great challenges of personal core values is that they tempt us to be past or future, not present. They tempt us to look backward to try to make up for something that we did, or to try to recapture something that we never experienced or experienced very little of, or to look forward to become something, to eventually be a person of worth, or to achieve something, to then prove that we are someone of significance. So being past, which is really impossible, we can't live in the past, or being future, which is also impossible because it's not here yet, instead of being present. But we can really only live in the present. Still, our mixed experience of benefits, losses, threats, and injustices cause inner conflicts. For example, in the past, we have enjoyed the benefits of some particular personal core values, and we are very focused then on those values that gave us a measure of success or enjoyment. And so when we see an opportunity to enjoy those specific personal core values again, that is what we look forward to. That is our focus, to relive those specific things that gave us success and joy in the past. We're very tunnel visioned on something that may be good. It may not be appropriate for that specific context, but we're focused on it because we've had a positive past. On the other hand, we may have suffered loss, threat, or injustice to personal core values. And so then we feel anxious. Now, let me say a word about anxiety. Inherently, anxiety is a divided focus. We feel pulled and pushed and torn. We're not quite sure where to focus. If you've seen previous videos, you know that I define emotion as a biological sensation that cues us to relational proximity. Fear tells me to draw back because I perceive a threat there. Feeling glad causes me to draw forward to engage in something I believe will be a blessing. Sadness, or feeling sad, causes me to pause because I've left something of value behind and it doesn't feel right to move forward. And feeling mad prompts me to move forward to engage in an aggressive way that may or may not be appropriate. But still, all of those things are cues to relational proximity. Anxiety, on the other hand, doesn't quite know where to focus because there are so many things that we see at the same time, and we don't know how to prioritize. We don't know what to delay our focus on, what to ignore altogether, and what to consider of greater value. So that is inherently, anxiety is an inner conflict of values, competing values. Then we see another opportunity to resolve our personal core values, and as the diagram shows, it is just a mess. We see that there could be sadness here, we could be mad, we could be glad, we could feel bad, we're not sure what's going to happen. It is just a mix of things, and our spirit is in turmoil. We are literally torn or conflicted between enjoying our positives and resolving our negatives. Now, on the left side of your screen, you've seen a green, amber, and red colored bar with future at the top and past at the bottom. I haven't explained that. Let me explain what I mean by that. In our decision making, we certainly must respond to recent events. You see that's there by the amber in the slight past. And we must plan for upcoming events. That's in the coming future. But we cannot live in the distant past. Decisions are like dropping rocks in a pond. There are ripples, there are waves that come out from it. So decisions that we made a week ago or even a year ago, if it's a big decision, it makes big waves. And those waves may still be coming into our present. And they may still have second, third order effects of action for which we still need to take responsibility and to take action on. So even though they're past, they're still somewhat present. That's why they're amber. They're in the past, but they still have an effect in the present. But the red is so far back that we can't really impact it at all. And I'll get more to that in a little bit. Same thing with the future. The future's not here yet, but our planning for the future is like anticipating that ripple effect. Instead of the ripple coming out to us, it is the ripple going toward the future of our planning, and we have to plan for future events. But we cannot live in the distant future either. We can only choose in the present. We can take action on the ripple effect from near-term events in the recent past. We can plan for the coming future. But the further back we go, it's in red for a couple of different reasons. One, it's impossible to live there. And two, it's dangerous to stay there. If we're so far focused backward, we cannot focus forward. When you drive in a car, it's good to check the rearview mirror to see what's in your near rear view, but you don't stare at what is a half mile behind you. If you do, you can hit somebody in front of you or beside you, right? In the same way, when we look forward on the road, we look to the horizon, but we don't fixate over what's beyond the horizon, what we can't see. Then we kind of get off into Never Never Land, and again, we'll hit somebody around us. So we need to be focused on the near past and the near future, and certainly the immediate present. But the farther out we go, the more dangerous it is and the more impossible it is to live there. Okay, I hope that has made some sense to you. That's a lot of information. If you'll watch it a few times, I think it'll click with you that we have different values in us that conflict because of some things we experienced as benefits, but other things we experienced as losses, injustices, or threats, and they're battling within us to relive those good things and to resolve those things that were lost or threatened or violated. So how do we move forward? Well, that is the focus of next week's video, and you'll have to tune back in to see that. And we'll also go through a very specific practical example. Hope to see you next week.
At the release date of this video, I am stationed with Research Development and Engineering Command, RDECOM, at Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. Because the majority of our personnel are in this area, I spend most of my time here. I do, however, travel to our distant units based on command priorities and budget. I place these videos on YouTube for broad visibility to Army personnel and their families, but I hope the videos will be helpful to others too. If you are assigned to RDECOM and want to request specific topics by video, training on site or by VTC, or confidential counseling on site or by secure webcam, you can contact me at jeffrey.d.dillard.mil@mail.mil.